So today we're going to be working on estimating fractions, and right away that tells us that fractions are estimated to be 0, 1/2, or 1, and it depends on what they're closest to. So these are called benchmark numbers. What that means is that when we look at fractions, we always round them or estimate them to be closest to one of these 3 numbers. That's it. We're never going to round or estimate a fraction to be 2/5 or 6/8. No, we go with nothing. It's closest to almost having nothing. It's close to having half of something, or it's closest to having another whole item. Now, I know that that may sound strange in the beginning. However, when you see what we do with these, you'll understand why that is. And I have a couple of tricks to show you, and we will write down the little trick to remind ourselves when we're estimating fractions. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to give you an example, we're going to write it down, and then I'm going to show you what that means. The first example is going to be the fraction 1/6. And 1/6 means that we are trying to find out where we have this located closest to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole. Now, 1/6, excuse me, I started to say 1/6 means that we have 6 items and we have only got one of them. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to draw 6 circles. We have 6 items. And of these 6 items, this fraction says 1 out of 6. So I want you just to scribble in the first one. Okay, so we have 1 out of 6. If I wanted to know where the halfway point in this is, I would look and I would say, well, there's 3 here and 3 here, so half of this picture would be about there. So I'm going to draw my line right down the center, between. So what I did was I kind of drew a line to show me where is the halfway point in this, in these 6 items. Down here, if this were a number line, this would be a 0. This would be a 1/2, and this would be another whole if this were a number line. So if I had 6 items and I had 5 of them, then I would have colored in all the way over to the circle that I'm pointing to. And that's kind of close to that 1. If I had 6 circles and I had colored in 3 of them, well, I would be sitting right there next to that middle line, the 1/2. So that would be closest to a 1/2. But in this case, I only filled in one of the circles. So if you can see where that's closest to, the 0, the 1/2, or the 1, you can tell it's really closest to the 0. So if I were going to take 1/6 and estimate it, or say 1/6 is about how much, I would say 1/6, and watch what I'm doing because I'm going to draw an arrow, I'm not putting an equal sign, is about 0. Because if I have 6 items and I only have 1 of them, I'm closest to having, actually I have none of them, I have so few of them. Okay, so when there's a 1 as the numerator in a fraction, a lot of the times we end up saying if the fraction has a 1 as the numerator, it's about 0. There are a couple of exceptions, because if the number, the fraction, has a 1 over 2, it's almost like a trick question. Because if I color in if I draw 2 circles, 1 out of 2 means I'm going to color in the first one. And if I draw a line to show where the halfway point is, 0 would be here, 1/2 would be in the center, and 1 whole would be over at the right-hand side. Well, if that happens, guess what? 1/2 is still just 1/2. It's about 1/2. So the only ones that don't work for this rule about the 1s are always 0s is going to be that if it's 1/2, well, that's going to be about 1/2. If you have 1 out of 2, you have a half of what you have. If I have 2 candy bars and I only have 1 of them, I have half of the candy bars. If I have 3 pizzas, excuse me, 2 pizzas, and I have half of them, then I only have one of them. So half is always just going to be a half. All right. If I have 1/3, I'm going to do that one over here. 1/3, I'm going to do a squiggle line to show that this is a new problem, I think. If I have 1/3, that means I'm going to have 3 circles. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because I need to find where the halfway point would be. And the halfway point would be like this, right there. That's halfway in the middle of the 3 items. And this is a half, this is 0 down here, and this is 1 whole up here. Well, if I have 1 out of 3, then I would only color in the first circle. And the question is, what is it closest to? Is this part closer to the 0, or is it closer to the half? It's kind of almost closest to the half, isn't it? Kind of seems like it's closer over that way. If I look here, it's closer to that line than it is to the 0. So in this case, 1/3, well, if I were going to round it, I probably would say it's about 1/2. But I could also say, for some of my fractions, that they're about 0 too. Some fractions are right in the middle, and they kind of go either way. Like 1/4 is right in the middle, and it could kind of go either way. I'll show you that one too. So if we do 1/4, I'm going to draw 4 circles. The halfway point would be right in the middle. That's 1/2. 0 down at the bottom, 1 at the top. Okay. And I have 1 out of 4. Well, guess what? This 1 out of 4 is right in the center here. This one is right there. Right there. You draw the little line to figure it out by putting it right after the colored in circle. So it's right there. This is as close to the 0 as it is to the half. It's 1 away from the 0 and 1 away from the half. It's the same distance